Gator Dave, how we doing?
We're doing well, Mike. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. We're 2 weeks away from college football, so it's
Man,
right around the
we
corner at this point.
we are 17 days officially. We start a week from Saturday. We've got the game in Dublin, Ireland. Iowa State versus Kansas State. Can't wait. Can't wait. It can't get here soon enough. We're in all the training camps, hot and heavy. Want to remind everybody we are Bets Utopia, your number one location for all things sports betting. Gator Day, that's Miami Mike. We're here for you. Thanks to all that watched last week, listened on the podcast. We appreciate all the love. Remind everybody to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you know when we're on here, like the folks that are watching now. Don't forget the live shows on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Podcast will drop soon after that. So, Mike, tonight we got the Big Ten. We finish our we finished the fearsome foursome. I got a couple of points as we roll into the Big Ten. I've kind of commented on quarterbacks, kind of given the rundown on quarterbacks the last couple of weeks. I figured I'd do the same this week. So the Big Ten has six returning starters. They have four promotions from within, guys that were on the team last year that now are in the driver's seat or starting. And then they got seven transfers, and they've got one true freshman that looks like he's going to start uh, up there up north, and we'll talk about that later. So the other point I wanted to make before we get really rolling into the games is when I was doing the breakdown, and I know you're thinking differently because you talked a little earlier, but I'm looking at the 18 teams as the haves and the haves nots, the top and the bottom. I think there's a substantial difference, and you can draw a line between number 9 and number 10, and that's kind of how I had everybody ranked in terms of their finish. So I don't think there's going to be many teams on the top that beat the teams on the bottom. So hopefully, that works for me later when we're doing our pick'ems.
We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll
We
see.
shall see. We shall see. All right. Let's get this thing going here. So we're going to start at the bottom of the Big Ten, and I am going with the Purdue Boilermakers. Mike, I'm going 3-9.
Mm.
They're returning one player from a team that went 1-11 last year. One starter, not too good. They do have Malachi Singleton, who transferred in from Arkansas at quarterback. They're ranking him number 17 out of 18. He was kind of the backup there at Arkansas. So, strength of schedule going to be an issue. 17th toughest in the country. That's pretty close to one of the hardest in the league in terms of 17. I think there's two other teams that have a harder schedule than them. So being on the low end and the toughest schedule is not helping. ESPN has Purdue ranked number 67 out of the Power Four, Mike, and that's 67 out of 67. So pretty rough. They bring in Barry Odom from Las Vegas. He has success up there. Now Dan the Man is up there in Las Vegas, but we know Odom comes in by way of Missouri, Las Vegas. Now he's at Purdue. He's got a lot of work to do. Obviously lost everything in terms of starting linemen on the offensive defensive side. Um, he's got two players on the defense that were on the roster last year. So I think they're probably going to give up a few points. Granted, they brought in some players from the transfer portal. They added 50 total transfer players and 25 from their freshman class. So that's about 80% new folks. So I'm only giving Purdue a 3 wins this year, and it's going to be tough to get those three. All right, let's see. See, we got in the chat here, Mike. We got Evelyn. We've got Scott. Already sounding off in the chat. We appreciate it. There's a bunch of others out there. Yell at us if you want to. So number 17, Mike, is Northwestern Wildcats. I've got them at 4-8. They're returning 10 from a team last year that went 4-8. They bring in quarterback SMU transfer Preston Stone, and they're ranking him 4th out of 18 in the league in terms of quarterbacks. So, which is pretty darn good. Should add some firepower to Northwestern and give them a little boost. They've got a strength of schedule of 33rd, which is about average for the Big Ten. O-line is supposed to be improved from last year, from what all I read. And the D-line has some serious returnees as well. So I think line of scrimmage is gonna help Mr. Stone a bit in to try to eke out a few wins here. Diamond in the rough, Mike, is a kid, Joseph Hyman. He's a junior running back, super fast. Last year he averaged 5 yards a carry and only 257, but they're talking he's a speedster and really can make it happen. So look for him to do well this year. They lost their top receiver in Henning to the NFL. Number 2 receivers back, Kurtz at 598 and 15 yards per catch. But I'm going to go with just 4 wins for Northwestern. Next up, I've got Maryland Terps. I've got them at number 16 and getting 5 wins. They returned 4 from a team that went 4-8, so I think they're improved a little bit. Their quarterback's going to be Justin Martin, transferred from UCLA. He's projected, however, 18 of 18, so they're not thinking much of him. Maryland lost their quarterback to Wisconsin. Actually, we'll talk about him in a minute. O-line, they've got several small school transfers. I don't know how much that's going to help them. D-line room is young as well, so this team is going to have issues on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They lost 6 players to the NFL and a number went to the portal. So they've got some imbalance as well. They lost their top running back to Indiana. They lost 2 receivers to the NFL, their top tight end to UCF. So it's a little bit of a mess in terms of what they lost this year. Strength of schedule is going to help them at 67. Loxley's going to have to coach pretty hard to even think about a bowl, in my opinion, at this point. But I've got him, Mike. I've got him at 5 wins. They're on the edge. So that'll do for my first 3. Mike, what do you think?
I think we're right on the same page. Unfortunately for those 3 teams, my number 18 is going to be Purdue. They're sitting at 2-10. 3-9, I could see it, but yeah, that's about as much as we're going to talk there. You mentioned you do a really great job in breaking down these rosters and these players, so I'm going to do what I'm good at, Dave. I'm going to hit you with some numbers. I'm going to hit you with some numbers and some trends here. I'm going to keep it going. So a few things to consider here when you're talking about this Purdue team. Since 2018, they are just 1-13 against the spread as home favorites in Big Ten games. They are 40 as a program. They've seen some better days. 46-73 straight up over the last 10 years. 13-25 over the last 3 years. You mentioned head coach Barry Odom just got hired from turning around UNLV. They lost all their starters on defense, so the defense wasn't too happy that he took that job. They're all gone. Their top 3 receivers on offense, they are also gone. Their quarterbacks, Hudson Card, they are also gone. Complete turnaround for this Purdue team in terms of roster, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Unfortunately, they got a bit of a gauntlet of a schedule with this Big Ten draw. So, yeah, I got them at 2 wins, 10 losses. Shout out my guy Charles and Scott in the chat. I see you guys. I appreciate it. Evelyn, Joseph, thank you for joining us. 17 coming in at, I got Maryland coming in at 3-9 here. I think they could maybe sneak a few, depending on how their season plays out, maybe get to 5 wins. But you mentioned it. It's going to be an uphill battle for Loxley this year to get bowl eligible. They have lost 10 straight Gator Dave, after a bye week. They're also 1-9 against the spread in those games. That's not a recipe for success. Head coach Mike Locksley, I like him a lot. He actually had a really good recruiting class this past year. I think it was a top 25 finish. I don't know if he's going to get a chance to actually see those recruits kind of come through for him. He's just 2-21 against the top 25 while at Maryland. Good news for Mike Locksley, if he does get to a bowl game, Gator Dave, they are 3-0 in bowl games. So they just got to get there. The downside and the problem for them is, once again, they got a bad luck of the draw with this Big Ten schedule. And they also lose their top 3 receivers. They lose their top running back. They lose their top 2 tacklers. They lose their 3 quarterbacks as well, including their starter. But pretty much completely brand new quarterback room there. It'll be interesting to see what he does. But this is also the guy that, when he was down at Alabama, he got Tua right. Jalen Hurts, he knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. So that's not the problem there. It's just a lot of other things. So I got Maryland at 3-9 at 17. And then 16 is going to be Northwestern for me as well. So I got Northwestern at 4-8. Unfortunately for them, you touched on it, their stadium is still being built. So a lot of their games, they're just pitching a tent. It's a little Cirque du Soleil action. They're throwing up a temporary stadium on campus for the majority of their home games this year. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. I will say, when that stadium gets done, the one that they're working on, it's right on Lake Michigan. It looks beautiful. Gonna have to go check that one out in person as a side note. But yeah, I got them at 4-8, and here's why. They got to go at Penn State. They play Oregon at home. They got to go to Nebraska. They got to go to Southern Cal. They get Michigan at home, and then they also have to go to Illinois. Good luck. They do get Preston Stone transferring in from SMU. You mentioned it, the quarterback. He had injury issues, ended up getting beat out by Kevin Jennings, who had a fantastic year last year for SMU, led him to the playoff. Preston Stone is out. He comes into Northwestern. The bad news for him, he steps into a position where his head coach, David Braun, 0-5 last 3 years versus the top 25. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to give you the number on it, but Northwestern isn't too good against the top 25 outside of his time being there either. So they got some ways to go. The good news for them, they have some key pieces coming back this year in terms of rosters, so they could sneak out a bowl. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. So I got them at 4-8, coming in at 16 for myself. Gator Dave, swinging back to you for number 15, sir.
All right, number 15, we're heading out west to the magnificent UCLA Bruins. That team's returning 6 from a team that went 5-7 last year. But guess what? They've got their QB, baby. They got Nico from Tennessee coming in at a lower rate. They got a deal. They got a deal with him coming in from Tennessee. Obviously, he's going to be he's ranked number 4 out of the 18 quarterbacks. Last year, he had 2,900 yards, 64%, 21 TDs, and 5 interceptions. So that's going to be a nice shot in the arm, obviously, for them. Strength of schedule, that's the problem, Mike. It's 15th in the nation. They play all the tough teams in this league. In my top tier, Mike, remember, they play the halves. All right. O-line has one senior returning, and they're loaded up with transfers after that. D-line, totally gone. Boom. So they got all bench warmers and transfer players coming in on the D-line, so that could be interesting. Deshaun Foster, he added, wasn't he a running back, right? Was he a running back? I think he was in the NFL. But so he grabbed Cal running back Javian Thomas from last year, which is going to be a shot in the arm for them. 626 yards, 6 yards a carry, 7 TDs, which is going to help because they lost their starting runner back, Harden, to SMU. So they kind of got a swap there. Top 2 receivers, gone. They've got their number 3 guy coming back in Gilmer, 345 yards, 12 yards a catch. Um, so Foster hired Tino Sensuri from Indiana as his OC, and he got 4 other position coaches. So, his second year, he did a little cleaning house, moved some people around. So hopefully that'll help him, but I don't think it will, Mike. I'm going with 5 wins and staying right where they were last year.
Mm.
Next up, I've got the Wisconsin Badgers, Mike. I've got the Wisconsin Badgers coming in at 5-7.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin Badgers. So they got 9 returning players from a team that went 5-7 last year. Enter the group of the have-nots. Their quarterback Billy Edwards transfer from Maryland. They've got him ranked 15th out of 18. I'm not thinking a lot of that. Strength of schedule, trouble with a capital T. A lot of the services say it could be the toughest schedule in the land, besides my Gators. But so they're playing all the top teams, all the top teams. They're in trouble. O line looks to be a little bit better. They got a couple of returners. D line full of new guys and transfers. Top running back Walker transferred to Cincinnati. That's what he thought about him. They're going to roll with Dupree, who had 314 yards, 4 yards a carry. Top 3 receivers are back, so that's going to be good for Mr. Edwards. Anthony at 672 and 14 yards a carry, and Takuahana, 339,
Gesundheit.
13.6. Oh, do you have him too? You got the
I'm sorry?
Kakunahana. Yes. My guess
Bless
he's
you.
from Hawaii. Excuse me. All right. So, Mr. Fickle, I think with these 5 wins that I'm projecting, the seat for Mr. Fickle is going to get a little warm this year, Mike, with only 5 wins up there in Wisconsin. But they have no help with that schedule. All right. Number 13, Mike. I've got the Rutgers Scarlet Knights at 5-7, down with the have-nots. They're returning 10 from a team that went 7-5 last year. I think they're going to regrets. They do return their quarterback in Kalia Manas, who is ranked 12th out of 18th,
You need some
18
tissues.
in the league. He he had 26.96. His percentage was only 54%, Mike. That's 12. 18 TDs, 7 interceptions. Another issue with Rutgers, 13th in the nation. Strength of schedule going to be a problem. O-line strong, D-line new and green, like much of the teams that we've talked about. Top running back is off to the Bears, Managua. He had 1,279 yards last year. He's gone to the Bears. Number 2 guy will be Mr. Antoine Raymond. He had 457, 4.6 yards a carry and 8 TDs, so not too shabby. Number 1 receiver is gone, but they bring back number 2 through 4, which is good. That's about 1,200 yards of pass catching and 7 TDs between those guys. So they do bring back the receivers. Leading tacklers back. Linebacker had 49 solo tackles, 3.5 sacks. The coach brought in a new DC, Rob Smith. He's been with him multiple times. He's like come and go, and they brought in a new OC, Zach Sparber. So I say another rough year for the Scarlet Knights down there with the have-nots at 5-7. Let me remind everybody to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. If you hadn't subscribed yet, please do. We'd like to kick those numbers up a little bit this year, if at all possible. Mike, back to you.
Absolutely. Good plug there, Dave. Good plug. I'm going to follow suit with your Rutgers, and I'm going to talk about them right here. I got them at 15. I have them at 5-7 as well. Again, just another program that just sort of has been at the bottom of the Big Ten for a very long time. The program is 39-81 over their last 10 years, but they have back to back winning seasons, Dave. And that's the first time in over 10 years that they've been able to do that. The bad news for Rutgers is they have a very tough schedule. Again, one of these teams just with absolutely no help from the schedule gods. We got Iowa at home, Washington on the road, Oregon at home, Illinois on the road, Ohio State on the road, and Penn State at home. That's probably 6 L's right there. To go with that, head coach Greg Schiano, in his career, 4-31 versus the top 25. Not too great. They could go bowling. We have them. I have them at 5-7. You have them at 5-7. They could. Crazier things have happened, but it's an uphill climb for Rutgers this year. Number 14, I got Michigan State. I have them at 5-7 as well. A couple quick notes here. They are 0-3 versus the top 25. That was last year that they went 0-3 straight up. Their head coach, Jonathan Smith, he's 4-13 all time versus the top 25. The reason I keep mentioning this top 25 number is there's a good bit of these teams as we get further up in this conference, as we're talking about it more, there's going to be a good bit they're going to be ranked when it's all said and done. So it is relevant. Michigan State has had one winning season in the last 5 years. I'm sorry, Butts. Matt, if you're watching, I'm sorry. One winning season in the last 5 years. Their last 10 years, 42-46 versus Big Ten opponents, but 24-9 versus non-conference teams. And they got a good non-conference schedule this year, Dave. They got Western Michigan, Youngstown State Penguins, and the Boston College Eagles. So that should be probably, hopefully, 3 wins right there. The downside for Michigan State, they lost their top 2 running backs. They lost their top 2 tacklers. Their quarterback commits way too many turnovers. Aiden Childs, you got to get that under control if this team wants to go to a bowl game this year. This is the problem. They got to go to Southern Cal. They got UCLA at home. They got Michigan at home. They have Iowa at home. They have to go to Nebraska. They have to go to Indiana. And then they get Penn State at home. That's rough. I think that they're able to finish 5-7. They sneak some out. They possibly could get to a bowl game. But again, the turnovers, they got to get it under control. Defense played awful. They got to step it up. It'll be interesting to see Michigan State, see if they could pull a couple off. I maybe have them winning an upset or two to even get to 5-7. So again, it's an uphill battle for them, but they could maybe get bowl eligible. 13, I got UCLA. UCLA coming into 5-7 as well. Brutal schedule. You talked about it a little bit. Utah at home to open the year. Then they got to go to UNLV and play your old head coach Dan Mullen with
Dan the man.
We talked about head coach Barry Odom, who went to Purdue, took over that role. Well, he left Dan Mullen in a pretty good shape with UNLV. 2 winning seasons in a row for UNLV. He brought in a bunch of transfers that came with him. Offense should be pretty electric out there. So I actually have this as a key game for UCLA. I think they actually might lose that game. I think Dan Mullen might be able to catch them off guard. He's a great coach when you give him time to prepare. And that's one that team, I can guarantee you that he's circled, because as much as he's probably enjoying Las Vegas, he doesn't want to be at UNLV. He wants to get back to a big program, and beating UCLA, that's a nice one for the resume. So they got home against Utah, at UNLV. They got Penn State at home. They got to go to Michigan State. They got to go to Indiana, Nebraska at home. They got to go to Ohio State. They get Washington at home, and then they got to go to Southern Cal. Couple quick notes here. UCLA, they're 0-3 versus the top 25 straight up last year, but they were 3-0 against the spread. Five wins, I think, is generous based off this schedule, but you never know. Main reason this is the problem here. On defense, lost their top 11 tacklers. Top 11 tacklers. Offense, they lost their top two running backs. They lost their top three receivers, but they do, you mentioned it, gain Nico in at quarterback from Tennessee after all that drama, but he doesn't really have a whole lot to work with. So it's with that schedule and sort of just what UCLA has going on, it could be a rough year. So we'll see. But I got UCLA at 13 at 5-7. Dave, who do you got at 12?
All right. I've got at 12, I've got Michigan State there. Maybe eking out 6 wins. They returned 9 from a team that went 5-7 last year. And Mike touchdown Childs, who's back this year. They've got him ranked number 10, but like Mike said, a lot of turnovers, and he only had 13 TDs and 11 turnovers. That's not good at all. I do like to coach Jonathan Smith in his second year for Morgan State, but he's still got a tough road to hoe. Strength of schedule, a little harder there. Mike talked about that as well. 27th. O-line is young and portal heavy, but hopefully having a returning QB is going to help them a bit. The D line gone. I mean, they're in the same boat again. We talked about this D line in this lower end of the Big Ten. You know, lost everybody. They're young. They're full of transfers, so it's definitely going to be interesting there. Top two running backs are in the NFL now, so who are they going to have in the backfield? They do bring back their number one receiver, Nick Marsh. He has 649, average 15.8 per catch, as well as 23 rushing yards. They got their tight end, Jack Velling, is back as well. Should help the offense. Their number two tackler, linebacker, Holiday, is back. He had 36 solos, a sack, and a forced fumble, so should help a bit. So that's why I say they're kind of middle of the road there, Mike. I'm probably closer to you now that I hear what you're saying in terms of schedule. So I've got them down at 6 and barely making a bowl game. Next up at number 11, I have the Minnesota Golden Gophers coming in at 6-6 as well. They're returning 10 from a team that went 7-5 last year. Quarterback Drake Lindsay, he ranked 16 out of 18 in the Big Ten. He was one of those kids. He's one of the kids coming off the bench, so he was the backup last year. He threw 5 passes, Mike, for 50 yards. So should rock it there, but I think that's going to be a problem. Schedule a little easier than average at 45th, but again, they're in the bottom tier in my opinion. They're another team revamping the O-line. Seems to be the story in the league. So we'll see how that goes. They're dependent on transfers again on the D-line, just like everybody else, it seems. Good news for the offense. They got the running back and Darius Taylor back. He had almost 1,000 yards last year, 4.8, 10 TDs, and 350 yards in the air. So that's going to be good for them. So number one target, if he can stay healthy, that's going to be a positive thing for Mr. Drake. PJ Fleck, Mike's guy. I think he might have another year, but I think that the seat could be getting a little warm by the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. I know, Mike, how much you love Mr. Fleck, but I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go. All right, number 10, last of the 3 in this section. Another 6-6 team again with the have-nots, returning 6 from a team last year went 6-6. QB Desmond Williams. He was he was the number 2 guy last year, so he comes in and is the number 1 guy this year. They're thinking a lot of him. He's 9th in the conference. They're saying as a backup last year, he had 944, 78%. That's impressive. 8 TDs and only 1 interception. So there's a lot to look at for this kid, and I've heard a lot of things, positive things, about this kid Williams, and this is one of the teams I haven't on that bubble in the middle that Mike could improve a bit. We'll see. Strength of schedule a little easier at 40th. O-line very experienced, so it should help that running game. D-line, again, transfers. A couple guys from Western Michigan and Utah. More good news on the offense is they bring back their number one running back in Jonah Coleman, 1,000-yard runner, 5.5 and 10 TDs, as well as their number one receiver in Denzel Boston at 834, 13 yards per catch. So I think this offense has a chance to make a difference. I think it'll be one of those teams that, could have a couple of upsets and take this, what I think is 6 to 7, maybe 8. We'll see how it goes. Number one tackler number one tackler went to the Steelers. Any Steeler fans out there? Carson Bruner. Number two guy in Tupatala, 43 solos, 3.5 sacks. He's back. Ex-Florida grad Jeff Fitch. We'll see how he does, but I think he's going to be around 6 wins is what I'm projecting. So, Mike?
Was that a little Freudian slip there, Dave?
It might have been. I
creeping
might have
through?
should have gone 7 on this one.
You
so
maybe
we'll
should have, but
We'll
I'm
see
glad
where
you
you
didn't.
got.
And you see these transitions, you're lining up perfectly because I got Washington at number 12 as well, but I got them at 6-6, just like you, Gator Dave. Last year on the road, something to note for Washington: 0-5. They went winless on the road, straight up and against the spread. They were 0-3 off a bye week as well last year. But bright spot here: 6-0 last year when games were played at Husky Stadium. They were 5-1 against the spread in those games. Better news for them: probably their toughest games of the year are going to be at home this year. So that's a good sign for them. I'll get to that in a second. Last 3 years, this is why that's important. They are 20-0 straight up at home. They had not lost a home game in over 3 years. They did lose their top wide receiver. They did lose their top 4 tacklers. But you mentioned it, quarterback Damon Williams. It's his time. They're really high on this kid. He's got a ton of athletic ability. But it'll be interesting now that he's got the full reign, full keys, how he goes about it. He's going to have a chance to prove himself, though. You got Washington State for the Apple Cup. They got to go to Washington State. Last year they played at a neutral site in Seattle. I think Washington State actually ended up winning that one, so this is a revenge game for Washington here as well. They got to go to Pullman. But this is where it's big time that they're having these home games. They got Ohio State at home. They got Illinois at home. They got Oregon at home. They do have to play Michigan on the road. They do have to play Wisconsin on the road. And they do have to play UCLA on the road. But arguably their 3 toughest games, they do get in Seattle, in Husky Stadium, where they play their best ball. I think they have a very high possibility of getting at least one of those 3 wins. So keep that in the back of your mind here. But I do have them coming in at 6-6. They get to a bowl, probably win the bowl. Jed Fish on the upward trend. We're both big fans of Jed Fish for different reasons. You like him for the Florida connection or whatever. I like him because he was down at Miami for a little bit before he went on to greener pastures. So I got Washington 6-6 coming in 12. Number 11, Wisconsin. I got them at 6-6. Quick trivia question here for you, Dave. Who is the only rapper to ever successfully rhyme Wisconsin? You're on the clock.
I don't know. I'm going up north. I don't. Eminem.
That's a terrible guess, but it was T-Pain is what we're looking for. Do you know the word that he rhymed with Wisconsin?
No, I did not. What is the word, Mike?
Mansion, Dave.
Mansion,
This is
Wisconsin.
see, This is a good one to know for your future cruise ship trivia
That's a good point.
questions.
Good
All
point.
right,
I
all
like
right.
it.
Keep
I
that
like
keep
it.
that one in the back of the head.
All right. It's
So I
logged.
good. I have them at 6-6. Billy Edwards, quarterback, transferred in from Maryland. We talked about Maryland earlier and Mike Locksley and how they lost all three of their quarterbacks from their quarterback room. Well, this was their starter. He is now at Wisconsin. Couple quick notes here about Wisconsin. Some maybe fun facts. If you are a Wisconsin fan, they're going to be real fun facts. 16-1 straight up in the games after they play Iowa. This year, Gator Dave, you know who they play after Iowa?
Ohio State.
Ohio State at
Oh,
home. At
wow.
home in
That
Madison.
would be that
In
would be an
Camp in
L.
Camp Randall. Hey, numbers don't
Streak
lie.
broken.
Numbers don't lie.
Streak broken.
We shall see. Head coach Luke Fickell, you might be right because he is 0-6 straight up versus the top 25 while he has been at Wisconsin. He is 8-20 against the top 25 in overall in his career. He's just 1-3 off a bye week when at Wisconsin. 10-8 overall off a bye in his career. Wisconsin lost their top running back. They lost their top tackler. And the schedule's not great, Dave. They got to go to Alabama. I think it's week 2. So that'll be a good reality check right there for one of those teams, needless to say. They got to go to Michigan. They get Iowa at home. They get Ohio State at home, like we just mentioned. They play at Oregon in Eugene. They get Washington at home. They got to go to Indiana, and then they get Illinois at home as well. That's pretty tough. So I think they're going to be lucky to get bowl eligible. I think bowl eligible is as much as Badger fans probably don't want to hear it. It's going to be a successful season if you can make a bowl game. That's a tough schedule.
It is.
It's been a tough go for Wisconsin of late. They need something to build on. Luke Fickell, head coach, needs something to build on. So another note there as well. Luke Fickell, former player at Ohio State, former coach at Ohio State. So he does have those little bit of a ties as well. A little bit something extra in it for him. But like you need it, right? So number 10, I have Minnesota coming in at 7-5. Head coach, you mentioned him, PJ Fleck. While I'm not a major fan of him, he does know how to cash some spread money, and he is 12-4 off a bye while at Minnesota. He's 18-8 overall in his career off a bye. That's a sign of a good coach, folks. He did lose his top 2 wide receivers from the past year. He lost his top tackler, but he is returning his leading running back, and that is the majority of the Minnesota offense. They like to run the football. They like to play it between the lines. They like to maintain possession, go slow, go at their own pace. So that's a big return for them. However, over the last 10 years, Minnesota is just 41-46 versus Big Ten opponents. But, bright spot here, 32-4 versus non-conference opponents. So against the Big Ten, they struggle pretty handily, but against non-conference, against non-Big Ten teams, they have some success. PJ Fleck, 8-0 in neutral site games. No, I'm sorry. PJ Fleck is 6-0 in bowl games at Minnesota. Minnesota, over the last 10 years, is 8-0 in neutral site games. So they're undefeated in a neutral site. Unfortunate part for them is they don't play one, I don't believe, this regular season. So, but they do play at Ohio State. They play Nebraska at home. They play at Iowa. They play Michigan State at home. They play at Oregon, and they play Wisconsin at home. So that's a tough 6 slate right there. I think they end up getting one of those to get to 7 wins, but that's a tough, steep climb. So I could easily see it going, it could be 6-6, could be 5-7. They could end up at 8-4. We'll just have to wait and find out, Dave. That's why we play the game. Back to you, sir, for number 9.
All right. At number 9, I have the Iowa Hawkeyes coming in again, and the difference, Mike, between 9 and 10, I've got 2 game difference. So that's why I said that spread, that that have and have not. So we're in the upper echelon now to me of the Big Ten. And I've got at number 9, I've got the Iowa Hawkeyes coming in at 8-4. They returned 10 from last year that went 8-4. They're bringing in quarterback Mark Gronowski, transfer from South Dakota State. We know that's those guys that can sling it around up there. They have him ranked 13th in the conference by the experts. Last year, he threw for 27, 21, 61%, 23 TDs, and 7 interceptions up there for the champion South Dakota State team. Straight the schedule, 23rd, which is a little tougher than average for the league. The O-line is looking good for their new quarterback. They've see things are changing now. So they've got 3 returning starters. Other side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball on the line, looks experienced as well compared to last year. So I think both sides of the line are going to help in the trenches. Um, we, the thing about Iowa that we've all been talking about for the last few years is no offense. But last year, Mike, do you know they jumped up to number 73 in offense last year? Um, but they struggled a bit with the passing game with their QBs. That's why they brought in the slinger from South Dakota State. Caleb Johnson, running back, who had 1,537 yards last year, Mike. He's playing for the Steelers. I'm sure Scotty's loving that. The number 2 and number 3 backs are back, Moulton and Patterson. They average about 5.6 and 4.9 respectively. So those guys should be rolling right in. Behind a good line should do well. Top receiver Gill is back, 411 yards. They did lose their tight end to the NFL in Lachey, who is a stud. I am going to say here, Mike, I think they've got some tough games, but I think they can eke out 8 wins in 2025. Next up at number 8, I have the USC Trojans. A lot of folks are thinking USC is going to be up there in the top 3 or 4 of the Big Ten. Not me. They're only returning 8 from a team that went 6-6 last year. Quarterback Jaden Maleva, who was at Las Vegas, then last year he transferred over to USC. He kind of came in toward the latter part of the year. They've got him ranked 8 out of 18. Last year he threw for 1,200, 60%, 11-6, which it's all right. I still think he's got a lot to prove in the Big Ten. Strength of schedule a little tougher at 28th. The good thing about USC, we start getting into that high blue chip ratio at 57%. The good news for the Trojans is both sides of the line returned several starters as well as some quality backups, and they've added some transfers from other Power 4 schools. So that's why I think they can make a leap from 6 wins to 8 wins, but I'm going to leave it at that. They lost their top 2 running backs in Marks and Joyner. They did bring in New Mexico running back Sanders. He was a 1,000-yard rusher, 7.2 yards, 9 TDs. And they got a junior college kid, mark this, his name's Wayman Jordan, that was a 1,000-yard rusher as well. So they might do okay back there. We'll see. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Marks is kind of tough to replace. So we'll see how that goes. Top 2 receivers in Lemon, or both the top 2 receivers are back. Lemon was number 1. He had 764 and 14 yards per catch and 3 TDs. He's back. Lane, 525 and 12 yards per catch and 12 TDs. Both those guys are back. So that's going to help them. But I think that schedule, when you look at it, and I know you're going to break it down because you do so well with it, is going to limit them to only 8 wins this year, Mike. So Last of my three, I got Nebraska Cornhuskers. Again, a lot of folks think that they can win 10 games. I don't have a lot of confidence yet. They're returning 9 from a team that went 6-6 last year. I think they're going to make a jump and win 2 more games. Raiola's back at quarterback. Now he's a sophomore. He's got his feet wet. They're saying he's number 5 out of 18. He threw for 2,800 yards, 67%, 13 TDs, 11 interceptions as a freshman. The thing that Nebraska has going for them, Mike, is their schedule is 63rd in the nation. So it's kind of like Missouri. They're like, here, silver platter of a schedule. You get to play the have-nots. So that's why some people are saying they can win 9 or 10 games, but still not a lot of confidence. I think so. Dana Holgerson's back full time as the OC all year. O-line looks good. They got a couple of returners and a transfer from Notre Dame and Bama, rejects from them, but still, those guys drafting them. D-line is, again, all green and new, so that's going to be an issue for them. They made some noise at wide receiver, Mike. They brought in Dana Key from Kentucky. Love that guy. Isaiah Hunter from Cal, and their number 2 wideouts back. So he's going to have some folks to throw to, which should help them tremendously. Number 2 tacklers back in Singleton, and DB in Wright should make some noise. But I'm going to go with 8 right now, Mike. This will be a team we kind of watch as the year goes on to see how they do, because again, that easy ass schedule could get them another win or two. So we'll have to see. Yeah. But I'm going with 8-4 right now, Mike. To you, sir.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Real quick, I just want to mention our sponsor at shopcya.com. If you're listening on the podcast, check it out, shopcya.com. If you also are listening on the podcast, just use your brain. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine, all right? You're going through security. You got to have clear bags nowadays so they can see all your goodies, all your giblets, all your woo-wahs, all up in there for the world to see, right? You go through security. In a normal situation, everybody's going to see whatever you got going on in the venue at all times. The beauty of CYA is they cover your assets. Once you go through security, you just clip the cover back on. It's fully secured. Nobody can see what you got going on. Protect your keys, protect your credit cards, your license, all your information. People are crazy nowadays. They can steal anything. Cover your assets. Shout out to Shop CYA. Check them out, shopcya.com.
And they come in all colors and varieties. I mean, you had your Miami one there, but I bet I could get a blue and orange.
You could. And
purse as well.
And Gator Dave, you can even have the Florida logo on it. They have licensing. You can get your own team on your
There you go.
Cover.
But my wife would need the Georgia one because she would not wear the Florida one. So I'd have to get her the Bulldog.
They have them, Dave. Right? Check it out. Check it out, folks. All the teams. Go look at that. All right. Here's number 9. I got USC coming in at 8-4. You mentioned it. It's the schedule. Couple quick notes here about USC. Some numbers for you. They are 15-5 straight up at home under Lincoln Riley, and just 8-7 on the road. They are 4-9 versus top 25 opponents, and they are 5-2 off a bye week. Against the Big Ten last year, in their first year in the conference, they went just 4-5. So they had a losing season in the Big Ten. 3-10 against the spread as an away favorite. They've lost their last 2. They lost their top 2 running backs. They lost their top 3 tacklers. They do return 2 out of their top 3 receivers, but they do lose Zachariah Branch to the Georgia Bulldogs you just mentioned. Couple of quick notes about their schedule, and this is why they're going to be at 8-4 despite having that blue chip ratio that you just were talking about. They got Michigan State at home, but they have to go to Illinois. They have Michigan at home, but they have to go to Notre Dame. They have to go to Nebraska. They get Iowa at home. They have to go to Eugene and play the Ducks of Oregon. They get UCLA at home to end the year. And a quick note about the beginning of their schedule this year. They play host to Georgia Southern. Do you know why that game is significant, Dave?
Don't make fun of me.
I'm not, never.
Okay. All right. Because you know my Gators lost to them about 10 years ago.
Oh, Dave, I wasn't even going to go there. You did it to yourself. Oh, if you haven't already, Google that. It's a really tragic game. Georgia Southern didn't even complete a pass against the Gators, and they beat them in the swamp. Ah, man, Dave, we weren't even going to go there. But Georgia Southern's head coach, Clay Helton, is the former USC Trojan head coach, and they fired him, and he ended up at Georgia Southern. So this is a homecoming / revenge spot for Clay Helton across the country to maybe sneak one on USC. So it's a game of note. They're going to come in motivated in that one. And as you mentioned, they have done it before against the D1 program. Before they were D1 themselves. They were FCS at the time. All right, moving on here. We have number 8, Nebraska. I have them at 9-3. You mentioned it. They lost a lot of guys, but they did have some pretty key transfers coming in. But here's some numbers for you. 2-8 straight up under Matt Rule in away games at Nebraska. Not ideal. 0-6 versus the top 25 while at Nebraska for Matt Rule. 2-22 in his career versus top 25 opponents for Matt Rule. Nebraska as a program who was once prominent, an absolute powerhouse. They are 31-57 over the last 10 years against Big Ten conference opponents. They lost their top running back. They lost their top tackler. They lost their top 2 wide receivers. You did mention that they got quarterback Dylan Raiola back. And a bright spot for you Cornhusker fans, they are 6-1 versus non-conference opponents the last 2 years. But they also haven't really played anybody. The bad news for Nebraska, they do play some folks this year. They play Cincinnati at a neutral site to open up the year. They get Michigan at home, Michigan State at home, USC at home. But they got to go to UCLA. They got to go to Happy Valley and play Penn State. And then they get Iowa at home. So the good news for them, they actually get 4 out of their toughest 7 games at home. And then one of them is also a neutral site. So that plays in factor for Nebraska. That's why I have them at 9 wins. I think home field advantage for Nebraska is major. But obviously, as I mentioned, 2-8 in away games under Matt Rule. That's not going to get it done in Power 4 football. So they got to turn that around. We'll see if they do that this year. My number 7 team is going to be the Indiana Hoosiers. I have them coming in at 9-3 as well. Some numbers here for you. They were 10-3 against the spread last year. So pretty great numbers there. 5-1 against the spread as a road favorite over the last 5 years. 8-0 at home last year. 0-2 versus the top 25 though last year. 10-1 against the spread as a favorite last season. And over the last 10 years, Indiana is just 1-6 in neutral site games. So pocket that for the old memory bank in case Indiana makes it back to the playoff and it's a neutral site situation. They haven't had a whole lot of recent success. Specifically, also in the Big Ten, over the last 10 years, they are 32-55 versus Big Ten opponents and 24-9 versus non-conference opponents. Their schedule this year, Illinois at home. They got to go to Iowa. They got to go to Eugene and play the Ducks. They got Michigan State at home, UCLA at home. They have to go to Penn State, and then they get Wisconsin at home as well. So I got them at 9-3, relatively decent schedule for Indiana after a very successful year last year for Kurt Signetti. He's got a good majority of that crew coming back. I think they will have some success, but I think they'll stumble along the way. At Iowa, at Oregon, and at Penn State, those are going to be tough to come away with wins. Illinois at home, Wisconsin at home. It's going to be tough for Indiana, but I think they finish with 9 here, Dave. What do you got at 6?
All right. Well, we're going to roll right in at number 6 with Indiana, but I think they're going to be one less, Mike. So we'll talk about
Ooh,
that toward the end. They returned 8 from a team that went 11-1 last year. Their quarterback will be transfer Fernando Mendoza, transfer from
baller.
Cal. He is projected number 13 out of 18. He threw for 3,000 yards with Cal last year, 69%, 16
Yeah.
TDs. That's pretty damn efficient. So,
13 out of
and
18 is crazy.
it really is. I think I'd be willing to bet he's higher than that now from when I got my stats. Strength of schedule 60th. That's not too tough. This team, of course, went to the playoff last year. O line's returning 3. They got 3 transfers coming in. One guy from Notre Dame. O line. They return Kamara, excuse me, who had 10 sacks and 3 fumble recoveries. He's just a freaking monster. They've got most of the rest of the D line's going to be new. At running back, their number one guy, Ellison, is back, 843 yards, 5 yards a carry, 10 TDs. And then they bring in Roman Hembry from Maryland, who had 607 yards, 6 TDs, and 273 yards catch receiving. So that's quite impressive for their running back tandem. Top 2 receivers back, Surratt at 957 and Cooper at 594. So they are bringing back a substantial part of that offense. Top tacklers back in Fisher, 49 solos, 1.5 sacks. But when I look at the schedule, Mike, I think they are going to lose all 3 of their away games at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State, and then they play at home against Illinois. And I think Illinois, and we're going to talk about them in a minute, it's going to be too tough. So that's why I have them at 8-4. Number 5, coming in at 9-3, I've got the Michigan Wolverines. So they're returning 13 from a team that went 7-5 last year. They are the team that is going to start a freshman QB. Bryce Underwood, the number 1 quarterback. Their projected, Mike, they got an easy one, 61st in the nation. Blue chip ratio comes in at 57%. Their O-line's going to be interesting. Most of them hung back last year. Now we got a green line. So that's going to be interesting for a freshman, although they brought in some transfers for that O-line that they think are going to gel, but we'll see how quick that happens. You know my theory on that and how I think O-lines are kumbaya, work together. It's not easy to put together. D-line looks okay. They brought in help from Clemson and Bama, and they got some young cats there as well. Portal additions. They brought in Alabama's number 2 running back, Justice Haynes. He had 448 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, and 7 TDs, 100 yards receiving because they lost their top 2 running backs. Their number 3 guy in Marshall will be back. He had 120 yards. They lost their top receiver in Loveland to the Bears. The number 3 guy, junior wide receiver Morgan, he'll be back. I think they're going to be a little bit weak on the pass catcher side of things. Top 2 tacklers, linebacker Hossman and Barham, they're both back. That's obviously the defense you know is going to do well. Between those 2 guys, they had 94 solos and 3 sacks and an interception. So we know that D's going to be good. But I'm only giving them 9 wins, but not too shabby. I think they'll be on the uh, right on the edge on the playoffs. We'll talk more about that later, but I think more than likely, if what I think happens, they'll be on the outside looking in on the playoffs. Um, at number 4, I have the Illinois Fighting Illini, Mike, coming in at 10-2. Mr. Bielema is returning 16 starters from a team that went 9-3 last year. He's bringing his quarterback back. They're rating him number 3 out of 18. Last year he was 27-17, 61%, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Strength of schedule 57, which is pretty damn easy for a freaking team that went 9-3 last year. O-line looks amazing. They got 3 seniors, all conference guy that'll be rolling in, should help Altmaier there on the O-line. D-line, a little patchwork with a couple of transfers from Wisconsin and some greenies. So I'm not so sure about how that D-line's going to be. Both starting running backs are back. McCray, 609 yards, 5 yards a carry. Lugery, 589, 6 yards a carry. Top receiver, Pat Bryant, is now with the Broncos. Their number 2 and number 3 guys are going to be jumping right in. Like I said, I think the Achilles heel might be the linebackers, and the D line. Linebackers and DBs are all coming back, so they should be good on defense. I think they're in great shape this year. The only away game they might lose is maybe at Indiana. That could be a loss. I don't think they're going to lose to Duke, although we'll see how that goes when we get down. I know you don't think, because you don't think much of Duke, but we'll see how that goes. But they only play Ohio State and USC in terms of any teams in that top echelon. So that's why I think they can go 10-2 relatively easy, Mike. So to you, sir.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and we'll talk further about that shortly. But unfortunately, I got the Iowa Hawkeyes here at 6, so we'll have to wait on Illinois. I got Iowa at 9-3. You got Kirk Ferentz coming back for his 27th season as the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes, longest tenured coach in the nation. And the reason being, he wins at home. 125-48 in home games. And Iowa's athletic director, man, do they know how to schedule these home games. They usually end up with at least 7 a year. Sometimes they end up with 8 a year. So it's been very favorable for Iowa. And the reason I say that is because on the road, they're just 66-61 in away games away from Iowa. So something to note there. Last 10 years in conference play, they're 60-31. Against non-conference opponents, they're 29-8 over that same span. And just 31-55 against top 25 opponents for Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, 10-11 in bowls. So he actually has a losing record in bowl games. A couple quick notes about this season. They do not play consecutive road games this year for the first time in a while. So that'll be big for this team, who obviously, they play obviously much better at home. So that's going to be big for them. 19-8 against the spread last 10 years as an away favorite, which is interesting. So when they do play on the road, as long as they are a favorite, they tend to come out on top. If they're an away dog, just note this one for the season. Iowa as an away dog, not the answer. So remember that one when we're talking games later on in the year. They lost their top 4 tacklers. They lost their top running back. They lost 2 out of their top 3 receivers. Schedule: at Iowa State. They have Indiana at home. At Wisconsin. They have Penn State at home. They have Oregon at home. They got to go to Southern Cal to play the Trojans. They have Michigan State at home. and then they have to go to Nebraska. So at Nebraska, at USC, at Wisconsin, at Iowa State. Uh, Relatively easy when you look at the flip side of that. Home, they have Indiana. Home, they have Penn State. Home, they have Oregon. And home, they have Michigan State. So as long as they handle business at home, Iowa is going to be sitting pretty. Will they handle business at home against those teams? Probably not. They'll probably just beat Michigan State. They'll go 1-3 in the home, and that's how I kind of think that they end up at 9 wins. Chances are it's probably closer to 7, 8, but Kirk Ferentz, for whatever reason, Iowa finds a way to win football games. They've done it time and time again. They bank on that defense, and this year their offense should be much better than it has in the past. You'll notice, I think, the bottom ticker that we've had there, they haven't had this was your fun fact. They have not had a top 35 offense in over 10 years for the Iowa Hawkeyes. So that's really their Achilles heel. If they can get that offense clicking, they can do something. Number 5, I have Michigan coming in at 9-3. You mentioned it. Bryce Underwood, true freshman. He was the number 1 overall recruit last year. He's going to expected to start. Something of note here for Michigan in their schedule. They do not have back-to-back home games this year. So that's something interesting because they are 1-3 on the road last year. In Sharon Smith's first year, they're 97-30 as a squad over the last 10 years. 68-21 against conference, 29-9 against non-conference. A lot of turnover for this Michigan team. Lost their top 2 running backs, lost their top 2 receivers, but they do return their top 2 tacklers on defense, so they'll have something to bank on that side of the football, which is going to be good because Bryce Underwood, being a true freshman, some of these games and some of these environments, he's going to be thrown in the fire early. I believe it's week 2. They got to go to Oklahoma and play the Sooners. So welcome to the big show, Bryce. I think 2 weeks after that, they got to go to Nebraska as well. That is another hostile place to play. They get Wisconsin at home. They get Southern Cal on the road. Washington Huskies at home. They got to go to Michigan State. And then at the end of the year, they do get Ohio State at home. So it'll be interesting to see how far and how quickly Bryce Underwood can kind of get going in this system, get going in this offense, get going in this new stage. You know, we talked about it earlier before we were getting on the show. If you haven't already, Netflix just released a little series about the SEC football season last year. It's like 6 or 7 episodes, but they do a great segment there where they talk about your quarterback, DJ Lagway, and he is very transparent and very real about the transition from high school ball to where, you know, some of these guys have 500 people in the stands, a couple thousand maybe, to go into these stadiums that have 60,000, 80,000, 100,000 people in it, and it is a complete different ball game. And he talks about how that played a mental factor in his head. As good as he was, as good as a recruit as he was, how much success he had in high school, it still was a mental factor going into that first road game and playing in these big time environments. So it'll be interesting to see how Bryce Underwood does with that pressure and if he steps into those shoes that he is, you know, highly anticipated to do. Number 4, I have Illinois coming in at 10-2. I'm with you. Shout out to the Fighting Illini, my nephew. He'll be in Illini this fall. So shout out to Emmett. Yeah, I got him at 10-2. Brett Bielema, I tell you what, he is a godsend to this program. Illinois better hold on to him as long as possible and not let him go. And the reason being is Illinois has had 2 winning seasons over the last 10 years. Those are both under Brett Bielema, and he's had winning seasons in 2 out of the last 3 years. Roster they return a ton of starters from last year. Luke Altmaier, the quarterback, being one of them. Ton of seniors coming back for one mission in mind. They're going to be going. You mentioned the schedule. It's actually generally pretty favorable for this Big Ten gauntlet that we've been talking about all night. They got to go to Duke. You mentioned it. Somewhat significant game there. They got to go to Indiana, play them on the road. They get Southern Cal at home. They get Ohio State at home. And then they have to go to Seattle to play Washington. And then they got to end the season playing at Wisconsin at Brett Bielema's old team, the Wisconsin Badgers. So that'll be an interesting game there. A couple of notes. Brett Bielema as an away dog at Illinois, he's 12-4 against the spread. As an away dog, he is 12-4 against the spread. Last year they went 9-3-1 against the spread straight up in all games. Something of note for their schedule as well. Their first bye week this year does not come until week 8.
Ooh.
That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out once they get into those conference play and you got the big boys clashing in the middle. Head coach as well. Something to note about Bielema: 7-2 off a bye week at Illinois. The games that he's coming off a bye week this year, it's going to be at Washington and at home against Maryland. So 2 games to note there. He's also 19-12 overall off a bye week in his career as a head coach. So a couple quick notes there for Illinois. Should be a very successful year for them, and they kind of have the world by the you-know-whats right now, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Gator Dave, back to you for the final 3, sir. Final
three. Hey, shout out to Father Tiggy. Join the chat. Welcome,
Father
Tiggy. All right, so final 3 for me. I am going at number 3. I have the Oregon Ducks coming in at 10-2. They're only returning 5 from a team last year that went 12-0. That's why I've got them down at number 3. Quarterback Dante Moore, he's one of those that have been elevated from backup now to the man. They're ranking him number 7 out of the 18. Last year, he was 7 of 8 for 49 yards. So we'll see. Strength of schedule about average for the Big Ten at 40th. They had 10 players go in the NFL draft. O-line is loaded with transfers. D-line, they've got a couple good edge rushers, but rest your Nicky New guys. Let's see, they got their number 2 running back. Noah Whittingham will be the primary running back this year because they lost that kid, and his name escapes me. You have to help me in a minute, but he was a really good running back for the last couple years for Oregon. But this guy, 540 yards, 4.6. Top
Jordan
2 receiver, Jordan James. Yeah, I should have known. The kid next door, the kid next door's name's Jordan James. Next door to me here. God dang it. Sorry, Jordan. So top 2 receivers gone to the NFL. Number 3 receiver, Evan Stewart. Guess what? Injured, out for the year. All they got left is tight end Keon Sadiq. So I'm not feeling real good. I mean, I built this a while ago. I think 10-2, mainly because when I looked at their schedule, it looks pretty damn easy. Obviously, there's no way in hell they're going to go 12-0. Blue chip ratio helps them a bit at 78%, Mike. I think the Ducks, while I have them at 10-2, I think they could drop as low as 8 wins, but we'll see just off of the information I've got here. But they've got a good team, great coach. Lanning's awesome. So, but I have them 10-2, Oregon Ducks at number 3. Number 2, and remember, this is how we think they're going to finish the regular season. I want everyone to know that because as we roll into next week, things might change and you might get a surprise from Gator Dave. So I have at number 2, Penn State Nittany Lions coming at 11-1. They're returning 14 from a team that went 11-1 last year. They got the number 1 quarterback in Drew Aller in the league. 33, 27, 67%, 24 TDs, 8 interceptions. Strength of schedule 51, which is a little slightly less than average. Blue chip ratio 68%. The offense, Mike, running backs. I don't know if we've seen a backfield like this in forever. Katron Allen, 1,100 yards. Nick Singleton, 1,100 yards. There ain't anybody close to that in NCAA right now. That is a hell of a backfield. And you couple that with Drew Aller, dangerous. O line, 4 experienced O linemen. D line looks good with Sutton and Durant coming back. They had to go to the portal for some receivers. Okay. They lost their top 3, and they also lost Tyler Warren, who was the top tight end selected in the draft to the Colts. So that is, if I had to say anything, that's the one question mark I've got. 3 of the top 4 tacklers went to the league. Bit of an issue. We know Abdul Carter, 12 sacks, he's gone. So they're replacing those guys. But I remember, you go back 68% blue chip ratio with some guys that played last year. I'm saying during the league, Lions win 11. They're only lost to Ohio State during the league. Okay. During conference play. Okay. So then they obviously, number 1, I'm going to have Ohio State. So they're going to roll into, the Big Ten, number 1 and number 2. So number 1, Ohio State Buckeyes, 11-1. Returning 9 from a team that went 10-2 last year that won it all. So you can have 2 losses and win the whole thing. Their quarterback's going to be Julian Sane. Again, he's another one of those guys promoted from within. He was 5 of 12 for 84 yards and a TD. Question mark. Question mark. Strength of schedule for Ohio State, 26th. It's tougher. You look at them compared to what Penn State at 51. I mean, big difference between 26 and 51. However, blue chip ratio, Mike, 89%, 4 stars and 5 stars. They restock everywhere. But I think if this guy can be a game manager, you've got 90% of your team 4 and 5 stars. So you can be a game manager. You can come in and do your thing. I think they can be efficient enough to win 11 games. They lost 6 O-line and D linemen to the league, between the 2 sets. They do return 2 O-linemen. Of course, they're going to be 4 and 5 stars, and the backups are 4 and 5 stars. They brought in a couple of transfers to help as well. Running back, they lost 2 good ones. They lost that tandem very similar to Penn State. They lost Junkins and Henderson to the NFL. They're gone. So they're going to depend on Peoples, who's out of San Antonio, Texas. I think he's a sophomore, 197 yards last year. Donaldson and Jackson are their backups. Granted, no names right now, so we'll just have to see. That again could be a little bit of a question mark when we talk about Ohio State. Running backs, quarterback, question marks. They got the number 1 receiver in the nation, Mike. Jeremiah Smith, 1,315 yards, 17.3 yards a catch, 15 TDs. And by the way, number 2, Carnell Tate, he only had 733, 14 yards a catch, 4 TDs. Oh, not much anything, right? So they're bringing those guys back, not to mention they stockpile freaking receivers. So that's not going to be an issue. Defense. So they got the best defender could be in the nation, and Caleb Downs at safety, 48 tackles, solo tackles, 2 interceptions, fumble recovery. They got linebacker Sonny Styles back, 49 solo, 6 sacks, a fumble recovery. I mean, they're lined up and they're going to make it happen. So, but I think the Buckeyes are going to lose at Illinois, will be the one game that they lose. And then we're going to have Penn State and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. So that's where I am, Mike.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it with Oregon, that Evan Stewart lost back in June. He tore his patellar tendon. That is massive. Massive, massive, massive loss for that Oregon offense. Shout out to Novoski. What's up, brother? See you in the chat. Yeah, coming in at 3, it's got to be Oregon based off of that. I did have Oregon actually sitting at 11-1 prior to the Evan Stewart injury, but now I have them at 10-2. It's just their schedule. They play nobody, absolutely nobody. They play Oklahoma State at home, who, we're not high on. They play Oregon State at home, who, that's a rivalry game, but they should handle Oregon State pretty easily. They do have to go to Happy Valley to play Penn State, which I do think they lose that one. They get Indiana at home. They get Wisconsin at home. They got to go to Iowa. That one's going to be a tricky one for Oregon right there. They get Southern Cal at home. And then at Washington last week of the season, that one also could be a bit of a tricky one. If Oregon's sitting pretty going into that final game, they could be looking ahead to that Big Ten championship, potentially look past the Huskies and kind of blow their chances altogether. So that one's to note there. A couple numbers here for you. This Oregon program has been dominant, needless to say, at least at home. Last 10 years, they are 55-8 when playing in Eugene, Oregon. They are just 29-20 when they leave Eugene. Quarterback Dante Moore takes over for Dylan Gabriel, former 5-star. He played at UCLA for a little bit under Chip Kelly. The dude's got all the talent in the world, so we'll see if he can finally put it together. He's, believe it or not, just a sophomore. I don't know how. It seems like he's been here around for 5-6 years at this point, but he's just a sophomore. Oregon did lose their top 2 receivers from last year. You mentioned that. Top running back gone. They do return 2 of their top 3 tacklers on defense, so that'll be helpful because they're going to have to bank on this defense with all the losses they've had on offense. Since 2015, something to note here for if they do make the playoff or if they make the Big Ten championship, just 3-11 against the spread at neutral site games. Under Dan Lenning, their current head coach, they are 10-6 versus the top 25. They are 5-2 off a bye week, 19-1 at home, and 13-2 on the road. Needless to say, he has had some success. Number 2, I have Ohio State coming in at 10-2 as well. Again, this is another program. This is probably the most successful program maybe outside of Alabama over the last decade. When you look at record, I mean, Georgia's there too, probably Clemson, but 115-16 is their record over the last 10 years. Almost 100 games over 500 for Ohio State. That's ridiculous. And they wanted to fire Ryan Day. Wait till you hear these stats. Before last year, they won the championship. They wanted to fire Ryan Day. 70-10 in 7 years under Ryan Day. 39-3 at home. 63-5 at home over the last 10 years. Under Ryan Day, they're 23-3 in games on the road. 39-6 over the last 10 years. 14-3 off a bye week under Ryan Day. 24-9 against top 25 opponents under Ryan Day. They did lose their top 2 running backs, Judkins and Henderson, to the NFL. They do return 2 of their top 3 tacklers on defense, so that's big for them. And they also do return 2 of their top 3 receivers in Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And they also get Brandon Inniss, who's a former 5-star quarterback out of South Florida. He's supposed to step up into the slot role, so those are going to be your 3 wide receiver options there for Ohio State. A couple notes about the schedule. They do go to Seattle. They play Washington on the road. But before that, they do have a bye week. So, again, he's 14-3 off a bye. Take that what you will. They have to go to Illinois to play the Illini. They have to go to Wisconsin to play the Badgers. They get Penn State at home for what they announced is already, I think it's going to be a blackout for that game. And they get a bye week before they play Penn State. Penn State and James Franklin are notorious for losing big-time games. Do not forget that when it comes time to that game, because Penn State's going to be sitting pretty in that one, just like Ohio State. There's going to be a lot of people calling for Penn State to finally upset Ohio State. Penn State's like 1-10 against Ohio State over the last, I don't know how many. All right, I can actually do. I'll find that stat for you when I start talking about Penn State. But they also finished with UCLA somewhere later on down at the end of the year at home. But this could easily be another 11-win season for Ohio State. They could go undefeated. They have all the talent in the world. You mentioned the blue chip ratio. It's absolutely ridiculous, the turnaround that they've had and the success that they've had. There's no signs that that's going to stop this year. Julian Sayin, the quarterback coming in, he's pretty much the biggest question mark, and he's a former 5-star quarterback, so he should step in just fine. I got Ohio State doing things again this year, unfortunately. My number one team is going to be Penn State. I got Penn State at 11-1. Couple quick notes about Penn State. It's just a matter, I just mentioned it with James Franklin and kind of his record. 16-28 versus top 25 opponents while at Penn State. Just 11-12 off a bye week. 31-20 on the road compared to 61-15 at home. Since 2021, after a loss though, they do respond. They're 5-1 against the spread. Unfortunately for Penn State, they lose some production. They lose their top 3 receivers. They lose their top 2 tacklers. But you mentioned it, Nicholas Singleton and Kayvon Allen for the running backs, probably the best running back duo in all of the nation. They do get them back. They get Drew Aller back, senior quarterback, leader. So they have experience in sort of these key positions. It's just a matter if they're going to be able to put it all together in these big-time situations, because they play Oregon at home. They got to go to UCLA across the country. They got to go to Iowa. Again, another one that could be tricky for Penn State. They got to go to Ohio State, and Ohio State has won 8 straight in that series and 12 of the last 13 against Penn State. They got Indiana at home. They got Michigan State on the road, and then they got Nebraska at home for Penn State. So if they can get through that schedule relatively unscathed, to be in the playoff, again, kind of everything in front of them, they're their own worst enemy. So as long as they don't get in their own way, could be a big year finally for Penn State fans and James Franklin. So we'll see how it all plays out here. But next week we'll discuss college football playoff, final top 25 predictions, conference championship games and conference champions, Heisman Trophy prediction, maybe a couple dark horses who we like to win the national championship as well. So we'll talk all about that next week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Also, next week should be our first NFL show. So make sure to tune in for that one with Scott and I. Steel City Scott had a incredible year last year. If you haven't gone back and if you weren't watching last season, I mean, he was 30 games above 500. Absolutely great run for Scott last year. So we'll see if he can keep that up this year. Excited for that show. Definitely tune in next week for that one. If you haven't already, please like down below. Like it, subscribe. Make sure you don't miss us. Put the little bell on. You'll get the notification. Dave just got visited by an angel right there. I don't know what happened. We appreciate everybody that was watching. Thank you for all the people in the chat as well, letting us know you were there. We love seeing it. We love interacting with y'all as always. So we have a great time doing this show. We look forward to it. So make sure to subscribe so we can keep going. And also shopcya.com up top. Check it out. Gator Dave, what do you got?
Absolutely, man. Great show today, Mike. Appreciate all the great input. I think ironically we were pretty almost very, very close on most of the teams in the Big Ten this week. So look forward to next week, to get to give our final top 25 and picks for the CFP and all that kind of good stuff. We'll kind of roll everything together before we roll into the season. So we're definitely looking forward to that. And please, like, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, hit that thing, hit that thing before you roll out of here today. And those of you on the podcast, man, come over to YouTube and check us out, Bets Utopia on YouTube. You can see Mike and I's ugly mug for an entire show. But I know, speak for myself, right? But and if you do come over, make sure you like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support through all the games. And man, I can't wait to roll into to week 0 and in a couple of weeks and
Two
start
weeks.
giving our
Two
start giving
weeks.
our
Week
our our
0. 2 weeks
pick'ems,
away.
our pick'ems. I mean,
Right
it's
around the
so
corner.
funny. I'll tell a funny story. So, when we started this thing, damn, 5 years ago, Mike,
Yeah.
you know,
Fifth year.
Mike's like, man, you want to get on and do this show and make these picks and all this stuff. And I'm a little green to the whole thing. And I said, sure. So, Mike, I think Mike selected the 12 teams and he sent me the 12 teams and I sent him my picks back. Okay. And I sent him who I thought would win. He goes, Dave, we're picking the spread, buddy. I said, oh, very interesting. So this is big boy picking here. This isn't just, I think this team will win. When we make our picks, we're picking the spread and we do pretty damn good. You can go back and look at how well we did last year. And I'm sure Mike will give us a little bit of a recap once we roll in. But appreciate everybody being on, man. And look forward to next week. And, all I got to say is go Gators.